grab a seat, sip some wisdom, and stay a while. This is the Prosperity Lounge, where growth gets personal. Step inside, we're breaking chains.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Prosperity Lounge, where hope meets freedom and growth gets personal. I'm your host, Joey Ruffalo, financial coach, author, and founder of the Prosperity Lounge community, where we help people reclaim their finances, their freedom, and their future. If you missed last week's episode, we sat down with Adeline Walker. She is currently the highest-ranking cadet in the Virginia Tech Corps Cadets. We talked about leadership through the lens of mentorship, transparency, and resilience. In fact, it was so powerful, we didn't even finish our conversation. We did a special live from the lounge YouTube video. This past Wednesday, we finished our conversation on mentorship and transparency and everything else. It was fantastic. I definitely suggest you guys check it out. Check that out. Go back there and watch it. It was just a great conversation. In fact, like I said, you can catch the replay anytime on YouTube. You can catch it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, everywhere you can listen to podcasts. And you can watch the video on YouTube. You can always join the Prosperity Lounge community at theprosperitylounge.com. And in fact, if you could still get our Declaration of Financial Freedom download, you can get that at theprosperitylounge.com/freedom. Tonight we're shifting a little bit from leadership and motion. We're going to talk about a story of miraculous recovery and renewed purpose. But first, if you want to be a part of tonight's conversation, you can call us, 865-577-4885. That's 865-577-4885. Or you could text in at 865-236-1791. That's 865-236-1791. You can always get in the chat on YouTube and ask away. We look forward to seeing who's in there tonight and saying hello to everybody and checking everybody out. So, now, tonight's episode is one that I hope you guys never forget. We had a great conversation the other day leading up to this. This is one of those episodes that's not about money. It's not about business. It's really not about health, but it isn't. It's about something deeper. It's purpose. What if your path to healing wasn't just a few weeks of recovery, but it was over 6,800 days of pain? What if your greatest breakthrough came at the end of your rope? That's what happened to our guest, Kent Morrell. After a car accident left him in debilitating pain, Kent spent nearly 2 decades battling the medical system, enduring 52 spinal procedures, and even reaching the point where he considered ending his life. What happened on Memorial Day 2019 changed everything. So let's pull up a chair and chat with Kent, who's actually joined tonight with his lovely wife, Jennifer. Thank you for joining us. Kent, welcome to the Prosperity Lounge.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. Our conversation that we had, and people always know, I always talk to my guests ahead of time just to kind of get a sense of where we are and have a conversation. And the conversation that we had the other night was life-changing for me as well.
Really?
Hearing your story. And we've crossed paths a few times, and I always know Ken as the guy who's very upbeat, very always smiling, always happy, and I was trying to figure out why. And then we're on Facebook, and I always see your bonus day post, and I'm like, what is he talking about? This is just great. Maybe had some incident, heart attack, medical procedure, heart attack or something, I don't know. But then hearing your story, it touched me in a way that was profound. It really was. You start seeing things and putting things into perspective. I mean, I've shared not so much on the show here, but I'll share My wife last year had a major medical operation where she had a tumor removed from her skull. 13-hour surgery. Didn't know if it was cancerous. We had no idea what was going on. Huge recovery. She's in the other room right now, just living life to the fullest. And I see how she recovered from that and how she lives her life. And I see how you are having this renewed purpose for yourself that we've talked about. And I kind of see similarities, and I kind of see similarities with you and I, Jennifer, in the caregiver role, in a sense of like where do we step in, and what kind of role do we play, and how much do we support people, and how much do we just say it's on them to really just do it, or is it on us to continue to lift them up every day, and things like that. Today we're celebrating our 25th anniversary.
Yes, happy anniversary.
Thank you. So she's in there smiling, having a good time, and she's got that renewed sense of life. So take me back to September 22nd, 2000.
Well,
You're a small business owner, you're wrapping up work,
right.
Something happens, it changes everything.
Well, let me go back a little bit farther than that. We were living the dream, high school sweethearts. We met, I was a freshman, she was a sophomore, summer band about this time of year in 1984, so we've been together for 41 years now. And we ended up getting married in 1990, and always wanted 4 kids. We were going to wait, but our first one came a little bit soon, so our first one was born within the first year of us being married, and we decided, let's go ahead and get busy and have our 4. So had our first one in 91, first daughter, second daughter in 93, third daughter in 95, and then on the last one I said, on the first 3 I prayed for healthy, happy children, and on the last one I said, all right, Lord, please let it be a boy. And I think God said, all right. And if our son had been our first, he might have been our only one, because boys are so different than girls, and we were on a first name basis with staff at the ER. It's your turn to take him. No, it's your turn to take him. But I was going to school full time, and it's hard to go to college full time and try to support a family. I was also working full time, and the goal was for my wife, Jennifer, to be a stay-at-home mom, and that was the plan. So I ended up starting a business to help pay for college in 93, and it took off. And Jennifer was going to class to take notes for me, and at the end of that semester in 94, she said, honey, why are you still in school when you're making the money you want to make now versus 2 years when you graduate? So we were off and living the dream, small business owner, stay-at-home wife, 4 kids. We ended up getting into private school at Grace Christian Academy. So Friday, September 22nd, about 3:45 in the afternoon, I was less than a mile from my house, taking a back way over to Middlebrook Pike. And I own an aquarium maintenance business, so we did like nursing homes and commercial places was my favorite people to work for. So I'm driving over this back road, and it's a narrow road, and it had just rained a little bit. And there's a narrow part where you kind of have to do one at a time. One person goes down the hill, one person goes up it. And I was waiting at the bottom of the hill. This person was coming down, and I see out of the corner of my left, out of my eye, looking to the left, that she is not turning. And I had about 2 seconds to realize she was going to nail me. And she did. She hit my car going about 40. Her left front bumper hit my left front wheel of my van and knocked my van off the road. And I did the worst thing that you can do, which is hold on. And so I held on to the steering wheel as tightly as I could, because I'm like, what is your reaction going to be when you realize a car is about to nail you? Hold on, right. So what happened was I was holding on, and I didn't find this out till later. Well, I'll tell you about the injury in a minute. But my wife got there pretty quick, and this was my son's 3rd birthday. We had plans that evening to do birthday stuff. And I was just irritated that this had ruined my day and might be ruining my evening, and I wasn't thinking about what had really just happened. And the police officer that responded told my wife, you need to get him to the hospital because he's hurt worse than he realizes. And I didn't feel anything except frustration at the moment, and Jennifer was encouraging me to go. And so I said, no, I just need to go home and rest. Well, about 2 hours after I got home, the pain started showing up. And what I found out later on was I was holding on so tightly to the steering wheel that I ripped the thoracic muscles on both sides of my spine, where your shoulder muscle is attached to your spine. And since you have been through some healthcare issues, and as you continue to go forward through it, you're going to learn, they call it practicing medicine for a reason, because they're never perfect at it. And so in medicine, after accidents, the normal thing that works for 80% of the people, 80 to 90%, is you rest for a week or two and then you start physical therapy to try to recover your muscles that you've damaged, because muscle tears are normal when you're in an accident. And so they started encouraging me to go to physical therapy, and so I did, and I got worse, and I got worse, and the pain got worse, and they kept telling me, keep doing the therapy, and it got worse, and it got worse. And it got to a point where I was in the bed hurting, or I was going to PT, and it took them about 2 years. I did physical therapy for 2 years. Oh, the doctor said when I finally went to the hospital Friday evening, the doctor there said, you're going to hurt for about 6 weeks. And I thought, 6 weeks? I don't have time to hurt for 6 weeks. You got to take it easy for 6 weeks. Well, it turned out it was 18 years, 8 months, and 5 days was how long that my pain lasted. And so finally in 2002, I had one of my customers was a neurosurgeon, had an aquarium at his house in his office. Mm-hmm. And he did surgery on me, cut off some spinous processes in my thoracic spine, and tried to remove the scar tissue, because what happened, all that physical therapy had caused scar tissue to grow into my spine. And it was pressing on the nerves, constant pressure on the nerves. It's taken me a long time to talk about. I talk about my bonus days, and I've never really talked about exactly why I count my bonus days. And I'm going to tell you now, every breath I took hurt. It felt like somebody was sticking razor blades in my spine, because movement is what caused the pain. Mm-hmm. And when you take a breath in your thoracic area, your spine moves. So every breath I took for 18 years, 8 months, and 5 days felt like someone was stabbing me in the back. And that's between T4 and T11 was my damage area. And so I tried like girdle kind of things to hold me tight, mm-hmm. but if I got it tight enough, I couldn't breathe. Mm. And so finally, that was in August of 2002 when he did the surgery, and my surgeon said, it's a 50-50 chance this will work. Well, it didn't work. And so finally in December, they sent us to another specialist, and it was a pain management group. And the pain management doctor, he went through our history, and he said, the reason you're here is because you've tried everything. And he went through some more stuff, and he finally said, it's time to realize this is permanent. Adjust your life accordingly. Wow. Now, what that meant was, because they originally kept telling me I was going to get better. Mm-hmm. So, and Jennifer was, a year into this, was like, do I need to get a job, because things were getting tight. And I was the optimist. Now I'm a pessimistic. I'm an optimistic pessimist now. But at the time, I was optimist, and I thought, no, it'll be all right. I'm going to get better.
6 more weeks, we're good.
Yes, 6 more weeks. And so finally, at this point, I had lost a large portion of my business just because I couldn't keep up with the customers. And when they finally told me Jennifer was with me, what that meant was she's going to have to get a job. She had been a stay-at-home mom to our 4 kids. We were going to have to pull our kids out of private school and move. We're going to have to sell our house and move. And we did that. And it almost destroyed us. Yeah. I still have a hard time just thinking about just how chaotic the first 2.5 years were. And it's stressful to go through as a family things like this. And I'm a big advocate for counseling, because you need help when you're going through something serious. And Jennifer started wanting to go to marriage counseling in 2003. And as a man, I don't need counseling. Well, I didn't think I needed counseling until my oldest child was elected by her siblings to come ask us if we were getting a divorce. Mm. And I thought, because we were fighting, because I resented her for being able to work. She resented me for being able to stay home even though I was bedridden and writhing in pain. It was a role reversal.
Sure.
And so at that point I realized, I do need counseling. And it saved our marriage, and I'm thankful for so I'm a big advocate for marriage. And go to a Christian counselor, don't go to some non-Christian to tell you to do stupid stuff.
And we still go every week to counseling.
Right, but it's dealing with different stuff now. It's, adult kids and, life things outside of this. And part of it is sometimes still working through what we've gone through, because if you go through a disaster, these people up in North Carolina and upper East Tennessee that experienced the disaster of Helene, that only lasted a few days. It's going to take them decades to recover from that. And same thing with something physical, cancer, something that you don't see coming that happens to you, it messes up your world. Because I was one of those people that believed, oh, God will bless you and God's going to take care of you. Well, God normally uses suffering to accomplish his goals. I mean, if you look at the apostles, 11 of the 12 died a martyr's death. All right. Our salvation was purchased through Christ's crucifixion. All right, so I don't want to hear anybody say that God's going to promise you, health, wealth, and wisdom in your life.
Sure.
So going forward, I started looking for anything that would help. Anything experimental. I got part of my life back. Like I said, I had the major surgery in August of 2002 where they cut me open and worked on it. From that point forward, it was just different procedures,
Now, before we get to the procedure parts, and before we talk about this low point that I think you're kind of getting into right now, I want to bring Jennifer in on this a little bit.
Yeah.
So you hear the news that there's an accident. What's your first reaction to? Because it sounds like from the conversation today and what I've had with him the other day was, you're the one that kind of said, you got to go to the hospital. They told you got to take him there. That he wasn't listening. So you had to convince him to go. You hear the accident. You have to convince him to go. You guys get this news. What's going through your head?
I think, and I remember standing there. I remember seeing everything. It's all in slow motion because it's the looking back that makes that moment so pivotal. Because at that point, I didn't know how long it was going to last. I didn't know if this was a weekend, taking it easy, and then back to work. You don't realize in the moment. I think for me, the moment that I realized it was sitting in that doctor's office after a little over 2 years and them saying to me, adjust your life accordingly. Like, those words changed my life, and that's what made all that moment so pivotal. And I'm in that moment thinking, he has all his business stuff in the car. We can't get it all in the other car. How are we going to get what he needs his customers? Just all the mundane things about how do you take care of what you were doing that day. And ultimately, that's not what mattered at all.
Okay. Well, let me rephrase this. Your injury early on, you kind of talked about it just briefly. Your identity as a business owner, but more importantly as a husband and a father, how did that injury affect that identity?
Well,
or did it?
Oh, it did. I watched when they finally told me, and they diagnosed me with permanent nerve damage to my spine. That was basically what the diagnosis was when they told me I wasn't going to get better, because normally you don't heal from nerve damage to your spine. And so I watched every hope and dream and aspiration I ever had evaporated. And the realization, as a man, you want to be able to provide for your family. So I felt like a failure because I couldn't provide for my family. I felt like a failure because I couldn't play with my kids like I wanted to play with them, because I couldn't do physical activity. And so as my son got older, we played video games. That was the thing we could do, because I could lay still, sit still on the floor, and we could play Halo on co-op mode.
Nice.
And it was a great bonding experience. The girls were a little older. They would come home from school and pile on the bed and tell me about their days, and that was nice. But the other thing about this was I didn't sleep. So for 14 years, I didn't sleep more than 3 or 4 hours a night, and I would dread going to bed. So it got to be a depressive episode just going to bed knowing I wasn't going to sleep. So I would go downstairs after everybody had gone to bed, play my video games, and listen to Coast to Coast AM till 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. And then I would go to bed when the sun was coming up, when I was exhausted, and sleep for 3 or 4 hours, and then start that all over again. And so for me, it was just finding a way to make it till tomorrow. And something I told you the other day was, I thought things were bad then, but every time I thought things couldn't get worse, they did get worse, because we're just up to 2005.
Yeah.
Well, let me add to that. You're saying all the kids would come in to your room and pile on the bed and tell you about their day, but I would do that too. And I think that's the thing that kept us knitted together as a family, because emotionally you were still there for all of us, even if you didn't do everything physically. Because, I can like, well, guess what happened at work today, and flop on the bed with you and all the kids. And I think you having the time and space to be, even though you're in pain and you're dealing with your identity, but those moments kept us knitted together as a family.
Right.
Wow, it's actually pretty powerful thinking of that.
Right.
Because you could have just retreated fully, as some people have.
Right.
Rightfully so. I mean, when you're talking about the lack of sleep and the lack of, just exhausting yourself out to you kind of exhaust yourself to sleep. Very similar with that, when we were going through our debt-free journey, was I didn't sleep for 2 years.
Wow. That wears on you too, brother.
Every time we get to a point where there was it was like a loud truck coming through our complex, I'm like, the car's getting towed, because it's going to get repoed.
Yeah.
So I would jolt awake and just kind of sleep with one eye open. And it was like 2 years of that.
Wow.
And it's exhausting, and my health suffered, and my mental health, my physical health, the relationship suffered from that, just from lack of sleep, really,
Right.
and that stress from dealing with that. And then being so exhausted during the day that you start making mistakes at work and out in the world and everything else, and it compounds, and it's sleep is important.
Right. Yes, it is.
Sleep is important.
Yep. And I started, like I said, I was looking for experimental things because traditional medicine wasn't going to work for me. They had already told me there's nothing they can do to help me. And so we tried, one of the things I tried was I've got joint laxity. So my joints go farther than they should. That was one of the things that contributed to the nerve damage and the scar tissue growing in, was because most people don't have loose joints like I have. And so it was the looseness that allowed the scar tissue to invade the medial branch on both sides of my spine. And so one of the things I tried was called prolotherapy, where they inject a shrinking agent between each vertebrae and to shrink, to make your elastic shrink up, to remove some of the laxity. Well, that was a needle stuck in between my vertebrae from my neck all the way down around, because your muscles on the lower part of your spine wrap around into your pubic area. And so the doctor laid across my chest and had Jennifer lay across me, and then I heard her gasp because he whipped out a needle that was 4 inches long.
Oh, gosh.
And pushed it through this area to reach the ligaments on the backside of my spine. And to hear my wife go,
my stomach's a little churny right now.
right. So, I mean, that was just one of the things I did. But there was a new treatment called radiofrequency ablation that came out. It's frequently done to get your heart back into the right rhythm. Well, they found it can interrupt the nerve signal in your spine too. And they've done a lot of cervical ones and a lot of lumbars. But when I started hearing about it, there were only 3 doctors east of the Mississippi that were doing radiofrequency ablation for your thoracic spine, and one of them happened to be at Tenova, and he happened to be in the group I was already seeing. So
Wow.
even though we went through terrible suffering, the Lord was answering prayers we had even before we knew it. Because the other thing, when Jennifer had to get a job, she was in education and had her college degree when we got married, and thankfully her mother was like, you better keep your license up to date because you never know what's going to happen. But when we found out in December that she was going to have to get a job, we prayed, please let her get a job at one of 2 middle schools. And she walked into Knox County to apply for the job, and she got a job at one of those 2 schools. And when we picked our insurance at the time, the insurance we picked in January of 2003 was the only insurance that would have paid for this experimental procedure without it being completely out of pocket. So, and God did stuff like that for us all the way through. So even though the suffering was terrible and we would feel like we're hopeless, God would do little things to show us you're not alone. And something that I'm not ready to really talk about, I will talk about it, I don't need to talk about this. Things got really bad the first year. And so things got really bad. And I was begging God to kill me the first year. But I wasn't at the point where I was going to do it myself. But I reached a point where I had to do something, and I talked to our pastor, and I got anointed with oil on Wednesday night, October 17th, 2001, and it was in a prayer chapel at Calvary Baptist down here on Kingston Pike. It was our senior pastor, a couple of deacons, a couple of the other pastors, and our kids. Mm-hmm. And so when he poured the oil over me, I was kneeling, Jennifer was kneeling in front of me. When he poured the oil over me, I felt like an electrical presence come over me, and the worst part of the pain, not all the pain, but the worst part of the pain left me when he poured the oil over me. And wow. I was wondering if I had been healed then. And I will tell you what the conclusion was after I tell you what the rest of what happened. So when we left, I'm wondering, is this just in my head? And so Jennifer and I were talking, and I said, well, did you feel anything? And I'm like, well, did you feel anything? And she said, I felt an electrical presence descend upon me. And she told me where it stopped. It was the same place on me. And our kids had already gone to bed. We were home, and they were in their rooms. And so we went to each one of our children and said, tell us what your experience was. Our oldest child said she looked up to see who came in the room. Our second child, our second or third, I'll get them mixed up. One said it felt like an angel hug from the inside.
That was
Lindsay. Kelly said it just felt good. She didn't want it to stop. And Jason, who was, 4.5, prayed to receive Christ that night. So this was another point where the Lord said, I am with you through this. And what I felt like God was saying, you're going to go through something, but I'm going to be with you.
Okay.
And so from that point forward, I didn't question. I did a lot of questioning God that first year. Why are you allowing us to go through this? And I stopped asking God, what are you doing, when I got anointed with oil. And that's one of the first times I've told that story publicly, because that's one of the ultra personal things that the Lord has shown us. And so it was just a weird thing to go through something like that.
That is
But going to the
amazing.
experimental stuff, so the radio frequency ablation, let me tell you a quick thing about that. How this works is, well, I'm watching the time too.
Are you good?
All right, so how this works is, now I had this done, now when I talk about having 52 surgical procedures, it's the procedure I'm getting ready to tell you about. They had to do a test procedure first, and that's where they use a short-acting anesthetic in between the vertebrae to see if you actually get pain relief. It's called a medial branch block. Insurance required that first. And then the radio frequency ablation, that was quite the show, because the first one they did, like I said, it was experimental. When I had the first one done, they rolled me into a room, and there were like 10 people in the room. There was a cardiologist. The only serious side effect is cardiac arrest, because they're working just on the other side of my heart.
Okay.
And they told us that. And this is how much pain I was in. I didn't care what the risks were. This is how bad it was. Possible heart attack. So the first time that I had this done, they had a cardiologist in the room, and all his job was to watch my heart. And then they had a sales rep for the company that made the needle, the special radio frequency ablation needle. And they had 2 other doctors that were learning how to do it, and they had 3 nurses in there. And they strapped me to the table, and I'm like, why are you strapping me down to the table? And they had a big grounding probe mat on my leg, and the doctor was grounded to the floor as well. Wow. Because they have to run electricity through before they can burn. It's called burning the nerve. Radio frequency wave, you're burning the nerve.
I had something similar done on my knee years ago.
So, and they couldn't fully sedate me. I had to be semi-sedated. And I'm like, why do I need to be semi-sedated? He said, because we have to probe the nerve bundles to find the right nerve.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, well, how are you going to know? Yeah. I said, well, how are you going to know when you find the right nerve? And he said, trust me, you'll know. So that's why I was strapped to the table. So, and I had, like I said, the damage is between T4 and T11, and they could only do 6 spots was all insurance would. So between 6 vertebrae, they did this between each vertebrae, just on one side, because they didn't want to accidentally kill me, so they wouldn't do both sides at the same time. So I had to come back to have the second side done. So that's why I ended up having so many surgical procedures.
Oh, gosh.
So what they did was, when he found that first nerve, when I thought I was going to come off the table, and then they run electricity through it to make sure it doesn't go to anything important, because if it stimulated something like in my arm or my leg or something, they wouldn't be able to burn it. This went to a sensation of skin on my back. So when this worked, there were places on my back I couldn't feel if you touched it. And then they did the radio frequency ablation, which is heating that needle up to about 160 degrees, and they burn it twice, 60 seconds each time. So it felt like a fire was in my spine, and they did that in 6 places, 12 minutes of burning, and that was what I was willing to go through just to get relief. And I got relief from that, but it's not permanent. They have to keep doing it over time.
Yeah.
And after they did this the first couple of times with me awake, they could fully sedate me because they could compare it to the X-rays, the
Gotta know where to
CTs,
go and
right?
stuff, yeah.
And so I did that over the next 10 years. I had 27 radio frequencies and 25 medial branch blocks, multi-level, about $700,000 worth of work. And then not to make this political, but when the Affordable Care Act came along and our president at the time said, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan, we liked our plan. We did not get to keep our plan. And he said, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. We liked our doctor. We didn't get to keep our doctor long after that. And that's when I started paying attention to what was going on politically.
Yeah.
But I would get relief for a few months, and then I got about 6 months of relief, and then it would be time to burn the nerves again. And that was the cycle we were on, and I would have 3 to 4. Now, relief for me was giving me 3 to 4 functional hours a day out of bed. That was what I called success and relief, to where I could go work part-time. I had turned my business over to an employee. He's a business partner now. He's run my company ever since. And I wouldn't have a company if it weren't for my business partner. So until 2013, we had the radio frequency ablations, and then insurance stopped covering that, and I had to start looking for other things. And then the next experimental thing, I had to go back and looking for more experimental things. And so one of the side effects of having the nerve damage is I had a constant muscle spasm in my spine. I always had a muscle spasm going all the time. And so I thought, well, maybe we should try Botox, because I know people who've had migraines and they use Botox to, stop the migraines.
Yeah.
And I found a neurologist that was willing to try it on my spine, to inject Botox into the muscles on both sides of my spine in an effort to paralyze the muscle spasm. Well, accidentally paralyzed the wrong muscles and magnified the spasm. So for about 3 months, it looked like somebody was hitting me with a baseball bat. And we call that the Botox incident of 2013, and that ended my search for experimental things. Because when I said things can always get worse, this was one of the times where things got a lot worse.
At least your back looks younger now.
Oh, yeah, right. But in 2015, I'm going to move this along a little bit. 2015, the state changed some laws. If you remember back then, there were pill mills, doctors that were writing too much medicine. Well, there were also legitimate pain management doctors that were treating actual patients with pain like me. And I have a genetic issue where I don't process medications correctly, and it takes me a significant amount more of pain medicine, anesthesia, for me to get relief. Matter of fact, I woke up in the middle of one of my surgeries when I was supposed to be fully sedated, and that really freaked my doctors out. And then I had genetic testing done in 2013 that showed there's a system in your liver called the cytochrome P450 system, where 90% of your medications are processed through this. There's 8 enzymes that act on them. And I've got anomalies on 3 of these enzymes. And so basically, most pain medicine burns through me like gasoline through a dragster. It just does not last long. So I needed a politically incorrect amount of medication to get relief.
Imagine.
And so with the CDC changed some rules in 2016, and the state started changing rules in 2015. And the goal was to save lives, and yes, that sounds great. But what happened was, between 2016 and 2021, the overdose deaths in the state of Tennessee increased by 500%, and our suicide rate now exceeds the national average. So the goal was to save lives, but they've not done that. They've taken away the right of doctors to treat patients the way they need to be treated, and that's actually what got me involved in being a patient advocate, was when I was dealing with this. It took a few years for it to really affect me, but I knew it was coming because I was talking to patients that were already losing access to care. And I was already going to Nashville. Like I said, I would have 3 to 4 good hours a day, and I could borrow time from the next 2 days. So if I had a 12-hour day, if I left to go to Nashville to advocate and came home and I was gone for 10 or 12 hours, that meant I was in bed completely for the next 2 or 3 days to pay back that time. That was how that worked for me. I could do an all-day thing, but I paid for it and had to pay that time back. So the average was 3 to 4 hours a day. Well, I lost great doctors because they were afraid to treat me because the DEA was coming after doctors and the state wasn't. They had repealed a law that protected patients and doctors in 2015. And so I finally got in to see another doctor, and I knew he was the end of the line, and he started pushing an implantable pain pump on me in 2017. And I had already been evaluated for an implantable pain pump, and the doctors told me in 2013 I was not a candidate because my damage was too broad. And implantable pain pump it's a hockey puck-sized device that they install in your abdomen, and they run leads to your spinal cord, and it pumps pain medicine directly into your spinal cord. The other thing about this is the failure rate is incredibly high, and people have had disastrous results using these, and I knew the side effects of these. It was another reason I said no to this. Well, that doctor didn't care that there were bad side effects, and he didn't care that I had been evaluated and said no. It made him look good because he didn't have to keep writing prescriptions of high-dose opioids for me. He said, the state's too stupid to realize it's a similar amount of medication, but because it's going directly into your spinal cord, they're not going to see how much is really going into it.
Wow.
So I just told him no. I'd already jumped through all the hoops at that time. I had Botox injected into my spinal muscles. If they had told me to stick feathers up my nose and light them on fire, I would have tried that. That's how desperate I was. But at this point, I'm 18 years, this 17 years in. And so another thing about pain management in the state of Tennessee, or at least at the time, I had to be drug tested at every appointment. And this was to make sure,
Okay.
This was to make sure what they had prescribed. It was just to protect the doctors. The state law was you had to be, I think, tested twice a year. But some doctors are just worried and they want to make sure they look good to the government. So I got tested every 28 days. So it's to make sure that the medicine I've been prescribed is in my system and nothing illegal is in my system. Mm-hmm. And I never did illegal stuff because I was afraid of losing my doctor because of this. And so he asked me about the implantable pain pump in October, and I said no. He asked me in November through the computer because he was a specialist. And one of the state changes was I had to see a specialist. Well, specialists don't treat patients. All right, nurse practitioners treat patients, and specialists are doing procedures. So I saw him personally in October, and then he would ask through the nurse practitioner on the computer every time I came, do you want to do the implantable pain pump? Are you going to do the implantable pain pump? So their computer system was down in February, so I didn't get asked that. When I show up for my March appointment, March 27th, and my doctor told me, you put a target on my back, what I'm prescribing you pulls up the entire average of my group, because it was a lot of medicine, and he did not like that, and he didn't want to treat me. But I'm going to avoid the profanity. He just didn't want to tell me he didn't want to treat me. He was too big of a coward to tell me he didn't want to treat me.
Okay.
So I show up at my March appointment. It was Tuesday, March 27th. You remember important days. And they hand me a letter at the desk that says I'm being dismissed as a patient for irregularities on my drug screen. Well, I was not real happy about that. I'm like, what irregularities? And they wouldn't tell me, and they wouldn't give me a copy of the drug screen, and they finally had to ask me to leave because I was not a happy camper about this. Because I lived my life in 28-day segments.
Sure.
Because you never know, are you going to be able to, is your doctor going to keep treating you after 28 days, or are you going to lose access to the medicine you need to function? Mm-hmm. And this was medicine I needed just to have 3 or 4 hours of functional time a day. I needed this medicine to have pain relief because, like I said, my pain was every breath I took felt like I was being stabbed in my back. So not having the pain medicine to knock the edge off of that, and I never got full relief of my pain. It was just enough to make it manageable. And so I immediately went to my primary care doctor after I left, had my primary care run a drug screen, and by law, you're supposed to send your medical records within 30 days when you get a request from another doctor. And I had him request my medical records because I wanted to see that drug screen. Yeah. Well, it took him 6 months to get my medical records.
No kidding.
And guess what was not included?
The drug test.
The drug test was not included.
Huh.
So he was just scared to treat me.
Okay.
And so he dismissed me as a patient because he was scared of the government. And one of the things I say is fear makes you do terrible things. And he feared the government, and he almost cost my life. So this was 2018. Now, 2018, like I said, every time I thought things couldn't get worse, they got worse.
2018 is the bottom.
2018, now we're reaching the bottom.
Okay.
So this was a Tuesday. My oldest daughter, Katie, was graduating flight attendant training for American Airlines on Thursday. So we flew to Dallas for that. And I had a disaster supply of medicine saved up, because if you're a chronic pain patient, you've got to have a disaster supply, because if something happens and you don't have medicine, you're screwed. And so I had a disaster supply, and I thought, well, I'm going to have to get into this, because I had no more prescriptions, and I knew another doctor wasn't going to treat me, so I wasn't getting any more medicine. And so I knew things were going to get really bad. I just didn't know how long and how soon. And I had 2 daughters getting married coming up. So Katie was graduating flight attendant training in Dallas, and so we flew to Dallas for that. And I started cutting my medicine when we got home on Friday from that. And then our second daughter got married in April. And I had 2 kinds of medicine. I had long-acting medicine and short-acting medicine. And so I started cutting back my long-acting medicine first. And Lindsay got married. It was a beautiful wedding over here in Townsend in April. And so I ended the long-acting medicine a couple of days after her wedding. And then Kelly was getting married in Nashville in June. And pain started coming back even worse. And I knew the pain was going to come back. And Kelly's wedding went well. And I stopped all my medicine a few days after Kelly's wedding in June. Now, at this point, I had been on long-term opioid therapy for 18 years. And so your body gets dependent on it. It's not that you're like addicted, like you're looking for a high, but your body becomes dependent on that medicine, because you've got opioid receptors and it's expecting them for pain relief. And I knew the pain was going to come back, and the pain came back with a vengeance. But what I did not expect was developing full-blown panic attacks, the worst anxiety. I cannot convey how bad the anxiety was, and depression just went through the floor. And at this point, like I said, this is 2018, the June of 2018. I had been told I was never going to get better. All right, I had been dealing with this for 18 years, and I told Jennifer, baby, I think I'm done. I do not see any reason for me to go on. And I was talking about suicide, and I wanted permission for her to do it, to tell me to do it. Because in the story of Job, when Job's wife says, curse God and die, she's telling him to go kill himself. Well, Jennifer was not happy about this. Jennifer said, I have not gone through 18 years of misery for you to quit now. You better find a way through this. And I thought, well, crap, I guess I'm going to have to find a way through this. And I still thought I was going to die. I thought there was no way I'm going to see 2019. And things got really bad. And she was very encouraging. And I need you to talk here in a minute about this. It got to where I had to start looking for some alternative treatments. And I don't necessarily like talking about this, but I was put in a position where my only choices were suicide or illegal treatment. That was it. And since my daughter was a flight attendant for American Airlines, parents could go anywhere in the world, and just pay the tax on the flight. So I thought about going to Europe to try some things that are legal in Europe that aren't legal here. And then I realized, if it works, I can't come home, because I'm not going to use street drugs. And a good friend of mine that had walked with me through this, that I'd known for 20 years, told me, you should try the local option. And I'll just go ahead and talk about this. He was talking about cannabis, and I laughed in his face. I thought, there is no way that a stupid plant is going to touch my kind of pain. Well, it did. It took me 6 or 7 months to find what worked for me. I had to do a lot of experimenting, making my own medicine. I made an oil out of it. And I found what worked. But getting to what worked was the hard part, because I was still dealing with the severe anxiety and the severe depression and the panic attacks. And I used to think, when people talked about anxiety, that there's no way it could be as bad as physical pain.
Yeah.
Brother, I know physical pain. All right, I do. I know pain. Matter of fact, I've got a blog, iknowpain.com.
Right.
Well, after I got to personally experience severe anxiety and severe depression and severe panic attacks, I went back to people and apologized for being critical, because there is nothing worse than that. The 6 months, 8 months that I dealt with that was far worse than the 18 years of physical pain I ever dealt with. That is a war going on in your mind that you just, like, I'm a Star Trek fan, so if you've ever watched the old Star Treks where Spock loses control of his emotions,
Oh, yeah.
that's what it felt like in my mind. It was a war in my mind. Wow. And there were about 90 days, starting in September, where I had to make a conscious decision to take my next breath. For 90 days, I had to decide to take my next breath. It was that bad. And it was so dark, I never thought I was going to see sunlight again. And Jennifer was afraid to come home. She was afraid I wouldn't be alive. And she was working out in East Knox County. She's in education. And she would normally call me when she was driving home, and she stopped calling me. And I asked her, why did you stop calling me? And she said, it's because I was afraid you wouldn't answer the phone.
Wow.
And so that's how dark and bad it was during that. And
let me bring Jennifer in on this a little bit here, because I want to get back to the story about your side of this, and seeing him go through these procedures and managing the pain and getting to this decision and coming to you. When he came to you with this question, were you surprised by it, or were you expecting it, or you were like, he's going to ask me and I'm going to be, for lack of a better word, angry at him for asking me?
I think the strongest emotion that I had was anger. And I was mad at the world. I was mad at God. And Kent was very at peace with God. He was just like, this is my path. And even in this deep, dark time. And I was so mad. And, he tells you about this conversation. But I think you need to imagine like a week long. I would come in the house after work all day, and it would just pick up the conversation where I'd left either that morning or the night before. And another thing, here are more reasons you need to live. And this is the impact it'll have on our kids. And, you're not leaving me by myself. And I've already done it all by myself, except for the 3 hours of the day you can function. And you're just not allowed to check out. I'm sorry. You've got to figure this out. And it was, but I think at the heart of that, the anger is the fear. I don't want to lose my husband. I do have a 30-minute drive home. And there was one time during all of this time, when you were feeling this way, and I called you and you didn't answer, and I called you again and you didn't answer. So now I've got 29 minutes of driving home, not knowing whether I'm going to come home to you. You've self-terminated, and I lost it. And I don't remember that drive home, but I remember getting out of the car. I'm not even sure I put the car in park. I must have. But I left the car open and running, and I start to run, and I'm running all over the house. Where are you? Where are you? I'm afraid to go in our bedroom. I'm afraid of what I find. And then turns out he's in the backyard, and the kids had trimmed the bushes or something, and he was pulling it out. We had a little place in the backyard. We would do bonfires, and he was pulling it to the burn pile, one of his good hours in the day. And I'm losing it because he knows what time I leave work, and that he didn't answer that phone when I called. And those are just little moments into how hard that was. And for me, there was for years, we had absolutely just lived in that, give us this day our daily bread, just the Lord's Prayer. And I never asked for anything beyond today. And I think it drove our kids crazy because, if Kent's parents had a condo at the beach, was the only reason we could take a vacation. And, we'd get down there and the kids are like, what are we doing today? I'm like, well, I don't know. We'll see when we get there. And now my kids are all Uber planners and live their lives on spreadsheets, and I'm sure in complete rebellion to how they grew up with us, just living day by day. But in this moment where, and I'm pretty sure it might have been around the time that I came home and you were dragging the brush to the burn pile. And I felt like God just said, you are praying wrong. And I'm like, it's the Lord's Prayer. Jesus said this. You're in your head. What are you talking about?
Sure.
And he said to me, almost audibly, it is not good enough to pray to get through the day. I need you to pray for a miracle. And I started when he asked me to kill himself.
Wow. So the next part of this story is Memorial Day 2019. Now, I want to have Jennifer tell her side first, because Kent's got good hours in the day, and we talked about this on our pre-interview. And my curiosity was, he's got a couple good hours in the day, gets up, it's a different day than normal, but you feel like it's a couple hours and you're doing stuff. Do you see him out doing some things that day? Are you thinking it's a different day?
I don't think I realized it for the longest time, but here's what I do remember about that period of time, because May for an educator is like, we're eating out every night, or you're having cereal for dinner. I mean, it's a little crazy closing down school every year. And so what I noticed is, I'm waking up with my alarm at 5 a.m. Kent's not in bed. Well, and then I'm like, where are you? What are you doing? He's in the garage. And I mean, if you've been in pain for 18 years, you have some around the house jobs that pile up.
That honey-do list is really long.
Yes, and when honey can't, then, there's the pile. And so he just started slowly doing things that he didn't have the energy, the time, the will, the strength to do. And it was just like every day, the minute his eyes would open, he would work as hard as possible, and then he would get all the way to the end of the day and he would sleep. And so one of the things he didn't tell you is, like, through all that time, yes, he talked about staying up at night, video games, but the other thing that he did was he just listened to Christian radio and preachers all day long. Kent was always at church, which is what kept, I think, another thing, all of us grounded and not losing hope all that time. So, like, even though that Memorial Day I didn't go, the angels are shining, God said you've been delivered, it took me a long time to realize it, but what I did notice was the complete engagement in our life again, and it was a little shocking.
Kent, you wake up that day, it's bonus day 1, or is it bonus day 0? Ground 0?
Well, I think the next day, the 28th, would be bonus day 1.
Okay.
That's how I've counted it.
So you count, okay, perfect.
The first day was, I didn't realize it was a bonus day, right? So, but yes, that was the day I woke up. I woke up completely pain-free. And I don't mean like I had a little bit of pain. I mean, there was no pain. And I woke up and I thought, this is weird. And I thought, this isn't going to last. So I've got to cram as much life as I can in today. And then the next day, I've got to cram as much life as I can in today. Let's get some crap cleaned up around here, because the house was a mess. I mean, I got more done around the house in the first 10 days than I had in the last 10 years. I mean, it was that much stuff. And I would wake up between 4 and 4:30 in the morning without an alarm, and I felt like my prison door was open, and I hit the ground running, and I ran. I pretty much crammed for the next 4 years. It took me months to realize this might stick around, because I kept expecting the pain to come back. I kept thinking, there's no way that my pain's not going to come back. With the level of work I was doing, because activity made my pain worse, and I was moving stuff around that I should have been moving and doing
more and more,
twisting and moving around. Right. And so I kept thinking, I'm going to pay for this tomorrow. And then tomorrow would show up and I felt just as good. I'm going to pay for this tomorrow. And if tomorrow showed up and I felt just as good. I took Hillsdale college classes, the free ones. So I did learning basically from 4:30 until 6 when it was light enough to go outside and do stuff, and listening to pastors. And then we went to the beach 4 times that summer. I mean, we were just trying to cram everything in we could. And then in August, I thought, maybe this is going to last a while. And I still hadn't realized I had been fully healed yet. It must have been later that year, and I was talking to Jennifer, and I said, I don't understand now we had realized something had changed, but I was still afraid to say I had been healed, because I was afraid that God would say, oops, that's a mistake. I didn't mean to make you feel that good, because it was just so bizarre to suffer for 19 years and then to get my life back, and to get it all back, to get my physical activity back and my mind back, and to have optimism again, and to feel like doing things again. And so that's what I decided I've got to do. When August came around, this is a story for another time, I accidentally met a business hero at a conference. And I saw his name tag. This is like I was an advocate for people, and this was a drug conference in downtown Knoxville. And I would go talk to politicians about what's going on in the medical system. And I got down, and I felt like God was yelling at me in August. It was a 2-day thing, and I didn't go on Thursday. And on Friday morning when I woke up, I felt like the Lord was saying, get up and go there. And so I went, and I realized I had already talked to all the politicians that were there. And I'm like, all right, God, what am I doing here? And I look, and there's like 600 people in this room. It's the big conference room at the UC. And there's this guy at this table next to me, and he's got great hair. All right. Okay, I noticed great hair because my hair is thinning. I don't have a lot of, and I thought, man, that guy's got great hair. And then I thought, he looks familiar, and I see his name tag, and it's his name, and he's with a foundation. And so I thought, where do I know that guy from? And then I realized, he married someone I knew in college, in Campus Crusade. And then I remembered, my brother was in a Bible study for him, and there was a third thing that just, I couldn't get the third thing. And so I felt like I knew enough to go up and talk to him.
Sure. And
I went up and introduced myself, and hey, I'm such and such his brother, and he remembered my brother. And he asked me what I was doing there, and I told him my story, and he thought, wow, that's incredible. And it's starting to click what the third thing is. And I thought, I know you from somewhere else. And I said, didn't you do something with a business in a certain field? And he looked at me like I had three heads, and he said the business name, and then it hit me who he was. He was the founder of a company that went public 20 years before, a company called iPix. Made great money, funded tons of charities around East Tennessee, and he became a great friend because when I met him, it wasn't because of his business stuff. I had completely forgotten that.
Wow.
And so he asked me out to lunch, and now he's one of my good friends. And he was kind of my Yoda through all of this.
I love that.
What can I do? And would bounce business ideas, because initially I thought, man, I want to make up all the time I lost business-wise, and I had business ideas out the wazoo. And I wanted to help people at the same time, so I was still involved in advocating, but I thought I've got to have a way to pay for my advocating.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Lord just, restored my health, gave me a relationship with a guy I never thought I would get to have a relationship with. And so I feel like God took me to the lowest point possible and put me on a slingshot and launched me out of the valley of suffering, and I continued to be on that arc. And I keep thinking, man, things cannot get better than they're getting. And as I said before, every time I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. Well, now, every time I think things can't get better, they do.
Man, it's such a transformation.
Yeah. And people need to know when you're going through the valley, it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But keep going. Don't quit.
Absolutely.
And miracles, pray for the miracles. Miracles still happen.
Now we are quickly running out of time,
Right.
which is amazing that we went through this so fast. And I have 2 more pages of questions to ask you. So this means we have to do this again
That'd be great.
because we got into the depths, and I feel like we didn't really cover the other side that well.
Right.
And we're gonna have to do that again.
Well, the other side has been amazing, brother.
And I can't wait for everybody to hear that
God has
part
done
too.
amazing things in my life and our lives. We
Yeah.
have grandkids now. I never thought I'd get to see grandkids. So we've got 2
That's
grandkids
awesome.
and another one on the way. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
thank you, Lord. Every day I get to get up, I'm like, thank you, Lord. Thank you for this day. Every freaking day is awesome, and I'm grateful for every breath. If I could count my bonus breaths, I would. I've done the math on that. It would be about 63 million bonus breaths. Every breath I get to take now that I don't hurt and it doesn't feel like I'm getting stabbed in my spine, I'm grateful for every breath I get to take now.
I smile because my dad was kind of this way. He used to kid my grandmother when she would have a birthday, and he would tell her, "Oh, you're 88. That means you're X amount of months, you're X amount of days, X amount of minutes, X amount of seconds old," just to kind of make her feel really old.
Right.
You're 1,630,000. Get out of here.
Right.
So I love that. Today is bonus day 2,245,
Since the Lord healed me, right?
and you're not just counting them. You're living them.
Absolutely.
You're getting off the couch. You're literally and figuratively fighting for stuff. You are taking your story of pain, faith, turning it into purpose,
Right.
inspiring others.
Trying to.
You are, for sure. I got one question for you from the audience here before we wrap up. I had a couple that came in. Let me try to find a real good one for you.
All right.
You mentioned, this is from Derek from Tulsa, Oklahoma. You mentioned counting your bonus days. How has that mindset changed how you make decisions now?
I don't put things off anymore. If I can do it today, I do it today, because we are not owed tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I have really learned. Take advantage of the good health you have now. Take advantage, develop the relationships you have now. Don't put things off until tomorrow, because you don't know you're going to get tomorrow.
And Jennifer, does that reflect on you? How has that changed you as well? Like, now you have to just go along with what he wants to do?
Yes, because I love him, but sometimes no. I say put the brakes on things, but it makes me so grateful to God that He genuinely answered all the prayers, and I was praying every day for a miracle, and it took me a while to tell Kent about that. Right. But as I was praying, I would pray things like very specific, "Dear Lord, give Kent hope." I might text a friend, reach out to Kent. And then on the way home, I'm calling again. He's answering the phone. And I'm like, hey, how are you feeling today? Well, so-and-so called me, but he doesn't know I texted them. And he tells me about the conversation, and then he'll say, I have a little bit of hope today. And it was those moments that got me through. So I do say yes to lots and lots of his ideas, though.
That is awesome. What you said to me in the pre-interview, and I love this because we share this connection. You don't believe in the no-win scenario.
Yes, Wrath of Khan's one of my favorite movies. And there's a famous line in that where Kirk says, I don't believe in a no-win scenario, and that's my attitude. And if you love the Lord, we shouldn't believe in a no-win scenario.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining in and watching tonight. We are out of time, overtime. I think they cut us off the air. We are good to go. So until next time, stay faithful, stay fearless. Remember, freedom lives where faith and action meet. The lounge is always open, and so is your next breakthrough. This is the Prosperity Lounge. Welcome back to the Prosperity Lounge, where growth gets personal and hope meets freedom. I'm your host, Joey Ruffalo. What would you do if the pain that rules your life for 6,821 days suddenly vanished? If you ever felt stuck in survival mode, physically, mentally, or emotionally, this episode's for you. Today we're diving into what happens after the breakthrough. You hear how one man went from being bedridden and hopeless to walking in freedom and purpose. And more importantly, how he'll be using every bonus day since to fight for others. This episode is sponsored by our friends at Home Smiles Knoxville, where proactive home maintenance gives you peace of mind. Visit knoxville.homesmiles.com or call 865-622-9885 and book your free 18-point home safety inspection and maintenance visit today. And be sure to check out our full interview with Brad Fleming from Home Smiles. It's available now on the Prosperity Lounge YouTube channel and wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Now, before we jump back in, I want to thank last week's incredible guest, Kim Frazier, for reminding us that real leadership starts with listening, showing up, and serving well. If you missed our episode on public service, community vision, and servant leadership, please go check it out. Now, if you tuned in 2 weeks ago, you heard Kent Morrell's incredible story of enduring over 6,800 days of pain and waking up healed on Memorial Day 2019. And as I learned, that was bonus day 0 because we didn't know there was going to be bonus days. So that's ground zero. That's the point. Today, I calculated this to make sure I'm correct, is bonus day 2,258.
You are correct.
Yes. And Ken is back to share this next chapter. What happens when the pain is gone, but the mission is just beginning? How do you reclaim purpose? How do you reclaim joy? And more importantly, how do you reclaim an identity? And we're thrilled to be joined again by Kent's wife, Jennifer. Thank you so much for coming. Who walked every step of that painful journey by his side. Today we're going to hear her perspective as a caregiver, advocate, and a wife who never gave up. So let's pull up a chair and find out. And if you have a question for Kent and Jen, please give us a call at 865-577-4885. That's 865-577-4885. Kent, Jennifer, welcome back to the Prosperity Lounge.
Hello.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It was actually you guys when I was figuring out guests or announcing guests to come back. I had a bunch of phone calls and text messages saying, "When is Kent coming back?"
Really?
Absolutely.
That's
and I
great.
said, "Gotta wait a week." Gotta wait an extra week. I already got a guest. So it was the highly anticipated return.
That's great. We're thrilled to hear that.
Yeah,
We're happy
glad-
to be telling this story. I want people to be encouraged.
Yeah. Where we left off last time, and before we jump in, I want to revisit that a little bit. You had shared the moment that changed everything, waking up Memorial Day 2019 with no pain after 6,821 days of suffering. But to truly understand what the power of that moment meant, we have to remember what came before it. You endured 52 spinal procedures, years of failed treatment. You lost health, mobility, identity. You battled not just physical pain, but emotional and spiritual darkness. There were moments where you questioned whether the life was even worth considering.
That's right.
The struggle was relentless, and to many it was, I want to say it was invisible.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So when that pain lifted, you woke up, the agony was gone. It wasn't just the absence of pain. It was the presence of possibility.
Yes.
And as powerful as that moment was, it was just the beginning. So let's pick up where we left off. If you want to hear the previous thing, I encourage you to go listen to part 1 from 2 weeks ago. It'll lead you right into this. It's like a great sequel, a great cliffhanger of a great movie. They always say the sequels are better, so we'll see how this goes. But you woke up pain-free. What happened next? Walk us through those first few days and few weeks of life without pain.
Well, like I said last time, I didn't know it was going to last. So I woke up and thought, man, this is weird, not to hurt at all. And I didn't make a big deal about it. I just hit the ground running. And like I said, I didn't think it was going to last. So I tried to accomplish as much as I could that day. Start digging out of the hole that we've been in, And then the next day I woke up and felt good. And the next day I woke up and felt good. And I think I said last time, I got more done around the house in the first 10 days than I had in the last 10 years. And then we started doing things. We went to the beach 4 times in the next 3 months. I mean, some of them were weekend trips. Some of them were, because I thought, I still can't believe that I feel this good. There's no way this is going to last. And by the time August came around, I thought maybe this is going to stick around. And it still didn't hit me that I had been fully healed. I mean, it took a long time for me to use the word healed because I was afraid to use that word. Because I kept thinking, the Lord's made a mistake. Somebody's going to figure this out, and the pain's going to come back. I'm going to keep my head down low. I'm going to do everything I can to enjoy life until this is gone, because I thought there's no way this is going to last. But when August came around, I thought, man, I've got to do something. What can I do? And I know this isn't a political show, but I decided I wanted to serve people and get involved. I had been advocating from the outside for years for patients because I knew what patients were going through. And so I thought, I need to do something. And I learned best by doing. So I decided to run for U.S. Senate.
Oh, just pick the cream of the crop up top.
Right, yeah.
For it all.
I thought, well, if I want to get involved, what I thought was everybody knew Haggerty was going to run, and I thought no one else is going to run against Haggerty. This will be a great opportunity for me to get in, to practice being involved in politics. I'll write my own speeches, do my campaign finance, my own campaign finance. And then in 20, when the following period came, 14 other people decided to run. So it was a hugely crowded race. And what I thought was, I can go to these events and tell Haggerty, what's important to me. Nobody's going to take me seriously, and nobody's going to pay attention to me. And it was a great experience. And I got to practice my speeches in front of a crowd. First time I had ever given a speech was at an event up in Hawkins County, and there were 200 people in the room. And there was Manny Sethi sitting there, and Bill Haggerty sitting there, and Frank Nicely over here. It's how I got to know Frank Nicely, who was an incredible guy, one of my mentors. And I'm proud to say I did not come in last. I came in 13th out of 15th.
Nice.
And won the cost per vote category at $1.10 a vote.
Perfect.
So it was a fabulous experience. And it introduced me to a lot of people that I could start advocating for patients and for Tennesseans and for veterans, because a lot of veterans are going through untreatable pain and severe, depression, and I had experienced that. And it was just a great way to get involved.
Now, you talked about going to the beach a bunch of times in summer. Surfing at all, or you just soaking it in?
No, just soaking it in.
Okay. Even tan.
Right. Even to this day, I treat my spine like it's glass, just because I don't. Okay. I know the damage that can happen from a seemingly insignificant accident, and my wife's the fun one now. She's like, "Let's go do jet skis. Let's rent kayaks. And so she has to talk me into this. It'll be all right." I'm like, "Okay, baby," because like I was joking earlier, if you suffer long enough, you expect suffering. And I still kid around that I'm an optimistic pessimist now, because there's still plenty of time for something to go wrong. So that's another reason why I'm thankful for my good days, because I know just a seemingly small accident, walking out of here and turning right on Chapman Highway or trying to cross it, that can be a dangerous thing to do. So I'm very thankful for feeling good. It makes
Sometimes I sit in that parking lot for a few extra minutes.
Well, I think that's a wise decision. People are driving too fast. They haven't been involved in accidents down this road.
Wow. So take me to this question here. It seems like then that process of that summer, you're kind of tiptoeing into the prospect of, this is now my new reality of being pain-free. Let me try a few. Once you realized, and maybe like you said, that optimistic pessimist part of like, maybe there is a chance that this comes back, so you're never fully thinking 100% I'm done. But when you resign yourself, like, look, I'm pain free, I'm going to now go life as this, what's the first thing you did?
Spend time with my wife, quality time with
Gotcha.
my wife, because we didn't get a lot of quality time for 18 years, 8 months, and 5 days.
Love that.
And so actually from that point forward, hanging out with my wife's been the most important thing. Because she is a gift from God, and I'm thankful for her every day. I would not have made it through this without her.
Yeah.
And spending time with our family. I like building furniture. So I started building some furniture pieces for some of my kids.
Cool.
And then I built a beautiful 7-foot mahogany floating desk for one of my daughters, and matching night tables and some shelves, and just doing fun stuff like that, stuff for family, stuff with my wife.
When you were going through this, you're obviously telling your wife, hey, I don't have any pain, it's been a couple of days, I think this is like, we're tiptoeing into something here that we haven't had in a while.
Well, it was longer than a few days.
Before you told her?
Oh, well, she knew. It was kind of obvious.
Okay, you're running around doing stuff.
For the first, even to this day, from the day I got healed, even to this day, I will wake up between 4 and 4:30 in the morning. And for the first 4 or 5 years, I got out of bed and I hit the ground running, and I tried to accomplish everything I could in a day. I lived at a frantic pace, man. I was just trying to cram everything, trying to make up for lost time, trying to cram as much as I could in. It was probably a year and a half ago, because we're 6 years, 2 months in of me feeling good. And it was probably a year ago when I stopped getting up at 4:30. I would wake up, but I would wait. I'd lay there and feel good and thank God for me feeling good. And then I would wait till 5:45 or so. And I love getting up with my wife and fixing her coffee. And she's in education, so she's got
out the door early.
She's out the door early. And actually, for the first 2 months, I made her breakfast every morning. Maybe it was longer than that. Eggs, bacon, the whole bit. And just because I could, and I felt like it, and it's an honor to serve her.
Yeah.
And because she served me for 2 decades, helping me. And so it was. I don't think I used the word healed until spring of 2020 when I first mentioned it. I don't understand it. And it wasn't until I started talking about being healed that she told me that she stopped praying for me to get through the day back in 2018 when things were so bad, and started praying for a miracle. It was the first time she had told me. So even when I got healed in May of 2019, she didn't tell me till like April or May of the next year.
Wow.
Because at that point I had started, when you're going through serious suffering, you don't always think about the effects on your spouse or your significant other. And I didn't, because I was so focused on myself trying to get through the day. So it wasn't for like a year that I started realizing what my wife had gone through too. And then I felt awful for what she had gone through. And I felt even worse for me not thinking about what she was going through, because I was so focused on survival. She's the hero of this story, because it is hard to watch someone you love go through suffering. And you know this, brother. And so that weighs on you, because there's nothing you can do to help them, and you would take their pain if you could. And I knew she would for me. But not only was she watching me suffer, she was suffering. She was the one that kept the family together. She was the one, she had to get a job, because the goal was, like we mentioned before, small business owner, had a very successful business. And then when they finally told me I wasn't going to recover, and she was a stay-at-home mom, had kids in private school, we had one at home, And that was our plan. So it was total life change for her to have to get a job. And, it's been 23 years and she's at the peak of her career now. And I'm thankful for that. And her ability to go to work and do what she does is honestly the reason that I have time to advocate for people, because I don't have to go out and worry about making a full-time income. And she's encouraged me to help people. And it's only because of the work that she does that I'm allowed to do what I do.
It's a team effort.
It is.
Excuse me. When you were first telling your family, other than your wife, you start talking to others, were they skeptical, or did they kind of embrace this?
Oh, of course they were skeptical. I mean, I don't think my wife fully believed that I was healed till about a year ago when we were on a vacation, a great vacation, and I think it was the first time that she had taken a breath, because she's been holding her breath too. Is this going to last? And so yeah, I mean, and I think my kids, because I mentioned when this accident happened, my kids were 3, 5, 7, and 9. When I got healed, they were all adults and out of the house. They were 22, 24, 26, and 28. So they are the ones. My oldest kids are the ones that had the biggest life change. Our younger kids, it was normal for me to be bedridden. I mean, that was just how they kind of grew up. But it was life changing more so because they went from having a healthy dad to having a bedridden dad most of the time. And so I think my kids are behind my wife in realizing that this is going to stick, because they don't see me every day. They're adults. They have their own life. They're all married. We have grandkids now. And so it has been fun to hang out with my kids and be able to make up for lost time with them. And I love that, getting to hang out with my family now and feel good.
I love that. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
It's almost like, and we'll get to this a little later on, it's this sense of being reborn.
Oh yeah. It's
nice.
total rebirth. I mean, it's been incredible. Gratitude does not get old. It does not. And there's always, as bad as things get, there is always something to be thankful for.
Absolutely.
At my lowest point, and I was thinking about this recently, when I mentioned there were 90 days in 2018 where I thought I had to take it. I still didn't think I was going to see 2019, but there were 90 days where I had to make a decision to take my next breath. And about 45 days in, man, I hit my lowest point. And it was like every breath was like flipping a coin, hoping it comes up life. It was life or death. And so there was a point in mid-October, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I was on the phone. One of my daughters, my second daughter, had called with good news. We were standing in the kitchen, and Jennifer was standing next to the dishwasher about 3 feet away from me. I had it on speakerphone, small TV in the corner. And it's like the volume turned down in my head, and sudden realization was, I'm not sure I'm going to see tomorrow. And I thought, I don't think my next coin flip is going to be life. And even in that worst point, and I didn't think about it until a year or so ago, even in the worst time of my life, when I reached my low point, there were things to be grateful for. Because like I said, one of my daughters had called me with good news. So I had a kid, even at my lowest point, that wanted to talk to me. And my wife was still with me, standing in front of me, and I had a house around me. And I couldn't see it at the time because I was so focused on my misery and my suffering that I was missing out on the blessings that I still had around me. So I try to tell people now, and I want to say this a few times. The last time I said there were 2 things I wanted people to know. There's 3 things I want people to know. Number 1, miracles still happen.
Okay.
Number 2, don't quit when things get hard. And number 3, there's always something to be grateful for.
Timestamp that.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that up. And it reminds me of when you are describing this fog that you're in, right? People, when they get in that situation, I always kind of liken it to you're looking down and you're not looking out.
Exactly.
And see what's around you. When you look down, you see darkness, you see your own feet, you see shadow, you see there's nothing there. But when you look up and around and you can see the world around you, then you see the light and you see what you can be grateful for. Even if it's not internally for yourself, you can be grateful for that tree or that plant or that breath or that sunlight or that rainbow or that cloud. You can find something to be grateful for, be thankful for, to get you to the next moment, to the next moment, to the next moment. And then you come out of this depression and this way of like just feeling down.
Yeah.
To the lowest point. I want to bring Jennifer on this in this next question here. So you are seeing this happen. What's your first thought when you realize that something was different?
I think my first thought was, I was grateful, but I think I was just like Kent. I was waiting for the other shoe to fall. How long will this last? Mm-hmm. I'd waited over 18 years for that 2 or 3 hours that he had every day. And I didn't really realize even that I could have verbalized that, and just to have like hour after hour after hour, and he was getting up before I was, and I would get up, and he's in the garage working on furniture, and he's already made my breakfast, and I'm like, what's happening? So I think it was just more shock, and how long is it going to last?
So those first few days he's going through this, there's probably a lot of emotion wrapped around it, either excitement, some joy, some skepticism, probably some bewilderment. How do you support him during this time emotionally, and how does he support you?
I think I was probably the one trying to put the brakes on. Don't do too much. Don't hurt yourself. Are you okay? Do you need to be in the garage at 4 a.m.? Things like that. I was more putting the brakes on. Are you sure you want to be doing all this? Are you going to put yourself in bed for a week? Or, sort of the old way of thinking. I didn't realize that we were in a different phase at all. As a matter of fact, after the last time, we went home and talked a lot after we talked with you the last time. And I said, when did you first start counting your bonus days? When did we talk about healing? And we really it took us a while to think through that process. And what was the first bonus day? Bonus day 74, 76. And so I think we started with just baby steps into gratefulness. Like, I don't know what's happening, but let's be thankful for it every day.
Sure. When he stopped making you breakfast, just joking, how did you feel? I had to throw you under the bus a little bit there.
Hey, there is Starbucks on the way to school. I was good. Sorry for the free advertising there, but
it's okay. Hey, hit me up, Starbucks. You never know.
Yeah.
So you weren't just healed to enjoy life at this point. You believed there was a reason, a mission behind the miracle. So tell us a little bit about this realization when you began to kind of talk to God and say, what now?
Well, actually, going back farther than that, I had felt like we as believers should use what we go through to encourage people, whether it's going through good things or bad things. Mm-hmm. And I had purchased a domain, iknowpain.com, 2010, thinking, I know pain, I want to be an encouragement, because there's a lot of people going through suffering and they're waiting for their healing. Sure. And I wanted people to know they're not alone going through it. It's hard to be an encouragement to people when you're dealing with your own suffering and your own depression. But I think about, was it Joni Eareckson Tada paralyzed her. She was a diver, paralyzed herself from the neck down. She's been an incredible encouragement, has a great ministry. People that live with suffering that are encouraging to others. And I started writing a blog, but it was depressing stuff, And so I thought we should write a book, and Jennifer will laugh about this. She would say, well, what are we going to write? We're going to write a book for people that doesn't have a good ending, because I hadn't been healed yet.
Right.
And so the first post I've got on my blog, and it was the only one there for a long time, was just quotes on suffering. And after I got healed, I started thinking, we really need to write this book now, because I said, I want people to know miracles still happen and not to quit. And so we're working on a book, and it's hard to write because it takes us back to going through it. And we've written a lot, and now it's just organizing it and editing it.
Oh, believe me,
And
I
so-
know that process.
Right.
You get
It's
it
a-
out on your head, and then it's like, I don't want to. I had a book, Kent, that I wrote, and I left it on the shelf for 5 years before I went back and edited it because I didn't want to read it again. 'Cause I was like,
Exactly.
I'm done with this. This is out of my head.
Right.
And then I read back and edited. I was like, I'm rewriting the whole thing because this is just. End up rewriting the whole thing.
Right.
I'm in the
Well, I'll
process
look
now
back
of doing
at-
the same thing. And it's like, ugh.
I look back at a lot of what I've written, and I hate to say it, it's crap. I mean, you know, I've got one chapter, and I haven't put everything up on my blog, but there's one post. It's thoughts on faith, fatherhood, suffering, faith, and fatherhood, and that's the one I'm most happy with so far. And it was actually most of my chapters have come from writing friends. I've done a lot of writing to friends, and I realized, wow, this would be good as a chapter. And that particular chapter, that blog post, started out as a letter to a friend of mine that's an atheist, and she had someone that we both went to high school with, and she had a terrible dad. And so I have an awesome dad. My dad's almost 90. My dad is the best example of a loving Heavenly Father of anyone that I know. And so he made my faith easy because he loved me like the Lord loves me. He still does. And our friend had a terrible dad, awful. And so it was just to her talking about the importance of being a dad and being sorry that she has experienced a bad dad, but telling her there are good, and she knows what we've been through, and she thinks she's been divorced. All right, it's because she's had husbands that I had a husband that let her down too, and so I've tried to tell her God won't let you down. All right, and just given that example of I had a great dad. You made my faith easy. But she's in a position that she's serving others. And I said, you're already serving others in the storm. You might as well get the benefits and follow Christ.
Right.
Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. And so, yeah.
Yeah. But it kind of takes me back to what I was saying earlier with, and actually even better analogy because, my head's been working a little bit now. The looking down and looking up that we're talking about. When you look down, where are you looking? You're looking at Satan. You're looking at hell. You're looking at the bad times.
Yeah.
When you look up, you can see all that's around you that God has provided.
Right.
And you can see that's there. I mean, wow, thanks for bringing that to my light.
Right. Well, the Lord has allowed me situations like this. Thank you for letting us come to tell this story. Because I do feel called to tell this story to be an encouragement. I don't always enjoy telling the story because it's reliving it, but I want people to know it. And so when I started realizing this was going to last, I thought about going back to my business. Like I mentioned, I've got a business. I've got a great business partner that runs my company. The only reason I have a company because I have a great business partner. Now he keeps most of the money. All right. But, and I'm fine with that. But I thought maybe I should go back to that, back to my old life. And I thought, why would I waste? It's not a waste to work. Don't get me wrong. But God has given me a gift. Do I want to waste my time accumulating more income for myself? Or do I want to take because everything we have, the most valuable thing we have is our time. That is one of the things I have learned through this. It's not money. It is time. The Lord gives us all the same amount of time in a day. We're not going to get any more or any less, regardless of how wealthy we are. But how we use our time, I think, is the most important thing. And that's what I decided. I want to work on telling this story. I want to be an encouragement to other people. I want to advocate for people that are going through suffering. So I have gotten more involved in advocating at a political level. I go to D.C. and advocate for patients, and I go to Nashville. And so I have just decided that is how I will bring glory to the Lord, is trying to help others.
I love that. And you were talking earlier about the process of telling the story while you were still in it and trying to figure out what that all meant. And I had a mentor at one time I was talking to, and I said, look, I have this thing I'm going through. We were in a ton of debt, working our way out, trying to figure out what that meant, how I was going to help people. And I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this or what I'm called to do. I have no direction, but I know I want to do something. And what they said to me was, you walk through a mess to deliver a message. And You have walked through a mess, my friend.
Right. I
And you have a
have.
message you can deliver. So
Right.
remember that.
Well, there's another one that goes along with that. I've got a mentor. I call him my Obi-Wan, my Yoda. Someone that's been ultra successful. He had everything that I thought I wanted until I got to know him, and he's just a normal guy, and he's used the blessings the Lord has given him to grow the kingdom in big ways. And we can all grow the kingdom in small ways. And one of the things he told me, because like I said, I lived at a frantic pace for the first 4 years. Man, I was trying to do everything. I thought of tons of stuff. I was trying to do everything. And he said one day, Kent, this is the quote that sticks with me with him is, he said, Kent, there are many good things to do and few great things. Find the great things. And that just stuck with me. Man, that stuck with me ever since then. Because there are a lot of great, good distractions around us that we could spend time wasting our time on good things. But our goal is to find the great things to do.
I'm stealing that quote.
Heck yeah, man.
That's going to be, I'm using that this week to promote the show.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much. That's a great one.
If you're listening to the show, you're doing a great thing.
Well, thank you, buddy. So Jennifer, during all these years of pain, obviously you're right in the thick of it, just in a little different way. What has this healing meant for you personally?
I think that I take the time to enjoy and appreciate every moment. I think before I was waiting on those 3 good hours and counting on that all the time. And I know this is going to sound a little ridiculous, but like I take joy in every single moment that we have together, that we're not in pain. We're sitting in traffic, but we're together. You know, it really doesn't matter. I feel like I savor life more now because I know how good it is to be stuck in traffic with Kent, you know? And I'm very blessed.
I love that. During this time, did you ever question your own role during this?
Oh, yes. I mean, there were very, very early on, Kent was really struggling. It was hard to find treatment. And, you know, I had family members say to me, did you sign up for this? And I was like, I had to think about it, which I'm ashamed of. But in those moments, you're like, and as I thought that through, I was like, no. I remember 1984 summer band. My friend and I were standing in the corner. We hadn't started yet. We were checking out all the new freshmen. I was a sophomore. And I remember looking around. I remember the first time I looked at Kent. And my friend pointed at him and said, well, he's cute. And I didn't say a word because in my head I was like, no, he's mine. And I knew from the very first moment that I looked at him and I knew that we were in this for the good and the bad. And that, you know, I knew that we were supposed to be together. So in that moment when the family member looked at me and was like, did you sign up for this? And I was like, I did. Because, you know, I love my parents, don't get me wrong, but my parents divorced when I was 7. And they both had other marriages and divorces. And I think just watching that process, that's not what I wanted to choose for myself. And so, yes, I was like, I did choose this, and this isn't the path I thought we were going to be on, but this is the path that I'm going to walk.
So during that time, what gave you the strength when you felt like things might not change?
Whoa, that's a... I mean, some days it was just, you're too tired to do anything different, so you just do the next thing you have to do because I have 4 little kids and I'm trying to work full time. And it took me 5 years to get my master's degree, taking 1 class at a time. I mean, it was just, it was a lot. So I think a lot of it was, you know, investing in the kids and doing what was right for them and trying to take care of Kent and hold us together financially. And it was just always just the next thing. I picked Kent. That was that big decision, you know, even in that moment. I'm like, no, I'm in this with you, whatever. And so I just never revisited it. That decision was made, I was done. And so I was just going to walk through this.
I want to add something to that. When we got married, she had mentioned her parents had gotten divorced. When we got married, and before we got married, we talked about this. We made a decision that we would never get a divorce, and it was a decision up front because we had no clue how hard things were going to get. Yeah. We just made a decision we knew, we went through marriage counseling, you do, before you get married. And we had a great pastor. He was our college pastor, the guy that married us, and he had known us for a while. But we made the decision when we got married that that's it. We're sticking together. And I think that is one of the things, probably the primary thing that helped us get through this, was making the decision up front that we were sticking together.
I mean, that's part of the vows, right? Better for worse, sickness than in health. Most people just ignore those nowadays. They're not sticking through it.
Right, and that's sad.
Right.
Because we're not promised great times. I mean, if you look at what happened to believers in the Bible, I mean, they suffered. Suffering's the normal part of life. Suffering is, do not be dismayed when trouble comes your way. I have forgotten the verse. But, I mean, we shouldn't be surprised when bad things happen, because bad things are going to happen.
It was funny. For a quick second there, I thought you were going to quote the Beatles. In times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. I was like, I know that song. So let's talk about today. Today is, and I got it right in the beginning. Bonus day 2258.
That's right.
I did the math.
2258.
I made sure I made it 0, and I did the math. And we're
Start
good to
date
go.
2258.
Yep. Life today. What does it look like? How are you doing things differently today than, let's say, bonus day 1, 2, 3, 100, 500?
I do not live at a frantic pace anymore.
Okay.
I have, once I realized, the many good things, few great things, find the great things. There are a number of great things, honestly. Hanging out with my wife is a great thing. I love that. Spending time with my kids, talking to them on the phone, getting to go to Bristol and check on my parents. Like I said, my dad's 90, mom's 89, she'll be 90. Just that I even still have my parents, I'm thankful for. And they're still sharp as a tack mentally. They have some physical things going on. So having the time to spend with family, I have the time to focus on what's important. Helping others. I'm involved in politics. I know it's not a political show, but
That's fine. It's part of your story.
I want to try to make a positive difference for people.
Yeah.
And I tried advocating from the outside. I'm on the Republican State Executive Committee. We write the rules for the Republican Party. It's a volunteer position. It's not a paid thing. But it has allowed me to get to know. I've got relationships with 7 of our 9 congressmen. I know both of our senators personally. I still can't tell if Marcia likes me or not because she doesn't smile very often. But I have worked hard to build relationships. That's what I've really spent the last 5-6 years working on, is building relationships. Nothing gets done in politics without having a relationship with someone.
Right.
So I have worked hard to build relationships and maintain those relationships. So now when I call a chief of staff, they call me back. If I text them, they respond. And that is a wonderful thing to be able to have that. Because if they know you personally, they're going to care about what's important to you.
And that transcends politics too. In small business and building relationships, that's key.
Right.
Is getting out there and making those connections. So when you call somebody, they're going to call you back.
Exactly.
What does it mean for you guys? I'll ask you both separately. What does it mean for you guys to number your days now?
It's enjoying today. I mean, I hate to keep talking about the optimistic pessimism thing, but this is going to end at some point. All right. I mean, Lazarus, once he was raised from the dead, he died again. Job, even though the Lord restored him at some point, he experienced suffering at the end, So it's the realization that where I am right now is the uncommon, unusual spot. I don't suffer right now. I don't have family that's suffering right now. I'm in a sweet spot of life, and I want to enjoy every day I get of that. So I count my days. I think I told you last time, I would count my breaths if I could. I think it would be about bonus breath 63 million, somewhere in that range, because I did the math on that. But it is just soaking up the goodness of God now and enjoying where we are now and being thankful. And I thank God all the time. Man, I'm in constant prayer, thanking the Lord every chance I get for everything I get to do. Even if I've got a flat tire, I will thank God for thank you for letting me feel good enough to change this tire myself. Even in what I would have thought pre-accident was suffering is mild inconvenience now. Oh, I've got a dead battery. Dang it, I'm going to be late for this. I've got a dead battery. Thank you, Lord, for letting it just be a dead battery. Thank you for letting me have a car that I can have a dead battery in.
Right.
So it's just enjoying today.
I love that.
Yeah.
How about for you, Jennifer?
I think for me, I'm starting to look forward to the future. Like before, I told you we just live day by day by day, and I think it's fun to start to plan things and look more forward. I think that both of us at different times, as we're doing things in life that we enjoy, all of a sudden we'll just tear up, and I'll look at him, and he'll look at me, and then we'll both start crying. Just that we're so thankful, and I think that one of the things that this reminds me, instead of just being all caught up in the business of taking care of, family and kin and holding it all together, is, like you said, looking up. And my mission maybe in life or in my job is to be that 1 degree of difference, because I was a math teacher for a long time, and I love the nerdiness of the 1 degree. But what I mean by that is if you look at your life as a journey from the earth to the sun, a small degree, a 1 degree of difference at the very beginning of your journey might mean the difference between making it to the sun or missing it by a million miles. Wow. So in my work in education, I really take seriously the opportunity that I have to be the 1 degree of difference for the students I have in my building, my teachers, my families, and how can I speak truth and light into their life and help them to see something about themselves that maybe they don't realize. Ooh, you're a really good planner. Did you realize that? You are so good at solving these math problems or thinking about things outside the box. And people have done that for me along the way. They have said things to me that has been that degree changing moment. They've changed the trajectory of my whole life by just one thing that they're saying. And I want to be that for other people.
I love that. So I want to bring up something that you shared with me recently. This was something you tried to talk to others about but didn't get a response.
Right.
You described your healing in the context of, and I'm going to read it off the paper, guys, so this is a little inside information. Silent Saturday, the time between the pain and the promise. And you wrote, if you're ever in a position where a miracle is the only thing that's going to save you, and you get that miracle, your life will never be the same. Can you unpack that moment for me?
Well, before my accident, I spent so much time thinking about what I want to do with the future that I did not enjoy where I was. It's the Star Wars thing, and Luke always looking to the distant, always looking off, not having your mind on where you are now. And so I think we take, or maybe we don't, I did. I took life for granted. I did. Thought it would always be perfect. Thought things would be great. Thought it would always be great. So it wasn't until I lost my identity, that I realized exactly how good I had it before the accident. And the realization at the time was, I'm probably not going to get it back, because I was told I would never recover. I got diagnosed with permanent nerve damage to my spine. People do not normally recover from permanent nerve damage to their spine.
Sure.
So, and I feel like, and I feel a little weird saying this, I feel like the Lord put me on a program of special forces training for spiritual, for being a Christian. Because every time I thought things couldn't get worse, they got worse. I mean, I thought the first year was bad. Man, the first year was nothing compared to what as bad as things got. And so if you're in a position where you're about to die and there is no one around to save you, and all of a sudden God shows up and rescues you, your world is going to be different. It just is. I don't even know how to put it into words, because it's a hard thing if you haven't been there. And even looking back now, I have a hard time believing what I went through. I mean, I just shake my head thinking about what we went through and what we survived. But if you're in a position where you need a miracle and you get that miracle, your life cannot be the same. All right.
Right.
If it is the same, you didn't need a miracle. All right. Because if the Lord shows up and gives you a real miracle, there is no way to not be changed by that. I mean, do you think Lazarus went back to work the next day saying, hey guys, I'm ready to do my thing. They're probably like, what the heck are you doing here? You just got raised from the dead. Go kick back at the beach or go get involved in politics or go,
Something.
I've wondered about Lazarus. He actually went and started the ministry on another island. If you do the research on what Lazarus did, he had a ministry on, he left and had a ministry on an island. I don't know if it was Crete. So don't get me wrong. Don't take that. I'm looking into that. It's one of the things I'm researching now. But I don't even know if that answers your question,
Oh, yeah,
man.
no, it's fine. So one of the things you'd mentioned in our conversation and in this communication was survivor's guilt.
Right.
So how did you wrestle with that, especially knowing that there's people still suffering, even people, that you care about that might still be suffering, and you have this like, hey, I'm healed.
Well, I'll tell you, as an advocate for people, and we haven't really gotten into the deep stuff that we went through. I mean, we have, but there's some details that we went through that were really bad. And I'm very open with my story on a one-to-one basis when I'm talking to someone, and I will be very open about what I've gone through. And they feel, for whatever reason, people feel comfortable telling me things they've gone through. And I've heard terrible things that people have gone through. Just awful, horrendous things. And so as I've told the story of healing, I realized one day I was telling my story to Healing, and he's a believer. I was telling my story to two people that are friends of mine. And one of them I knew that his wife had passed unexpectedly. And as I'm telling it, I'm thinking, why me? Why did God heal me and not your wife? His wife went through terrible suffering and she passed, and he was holding her hand when she died. And then the other friend that I was telling this to told me that the day I was telling them this story, she hadn't heard my full story, and I was telling my other friend that had lost his wife by me, and then the other friend said that day that we were talking was the 10-year anniversary of her husband walking out, going to work, and he was in an accident, and he got killed, and apparently it was a bad accident. She never got to see him again. Oh, wow. And I thought, why me? Why have you healed me and not these other people? And it was a terrible, guilty feeling of, here I am counting my bonus days and being thankful for everything I get. And then I've got friends that have lost their spouses, and I can't imagine anything worse than losing a spouse. And they both said to me, this is not our home. Our spouses are in heaven now. You need to tell this story to be an encouragement to people. And I thought, what a gracious thing for them to say to me, with the realization, because, man, I'm loving life right now, and I'm looking forward to heaven, but I tell the Lord, hold off on that for a while, all right? You tested me in suffering.
I still have more work for me to do here.
Right. Well, not even more work. I want to enjoy the gifts God has given us. And even if it's just sitting on a beach watching the sunrise, one of the things I spent so much time in darkness that I love getting up early and watching the sun come up. And there'll be times we're at the beach and I'm like, come on, baby, let's go to the beach and watch the sun come up. And we've gotten to do that in some beautiful places now. And it just brings me to tears to watch the sun come up.
Yeah.
Because it's a glorious thing to see that light pop up. It's only about 45 seconds that the sun, once the crest of it comes up, you put your thumb over it. It takes about 45 seconds for it to be fully over the water. Yeah. And so I just, man, I love that.
There was a question that came up of, do you believe in miracles?
Do I?
And, well, I think that was in part of the conversation, is do miracles exist?
Okay.
Right? And so obviously I remember do you believe in miracles? Yes, from 1980 when we beat the Russians in ice hockey, for sure.
Right.
There's miracles around us all the time. I think we see it so often that we become complacent.
Right.
Sunrise, sunset, everything around us, everything could be considered a miracle, but it happens. It's so routine that it's like,
Right.
But you have to break it down and go, these chemicals are reacting at just the right moment, at just the right frequency, at just the right time, at just the right temperature, and colliding at just the right moment with just the right force to create sunlight billions of miles away. They're hitting this just the right time, at just the right angle for me to burn my skin when I'm outside in the summertime.
Right.
So I say that because my dad, my entire life, was blind, had a genetic condition. He was one of 5 siblings. 3 of them have it. 2 of them do not. So I have 3 people in my family that are blind, and 2 of them weren't. My dad passed away a few years ago, but in that process, he'd have glimmers of sight once in a while. He could see the crosswalks lines if it was just overcast enough at just the right time of day, with just the right amount of sunlight coming through the clouds, he could make out a crosswalk white line. So he'd have these glimmers, and then eventually he'd have these little moments where, at least describing to us, where he could see our faces every once in a while, like just a flicker of like a second in time where he could see us and kind of know what we look like, and he'd describe us to a T. And we go in his face and we put our hand in front. He wouldn't blink. Like, okay, he doesn't see us, but then he'd be able to describe us because he saw us once in a while. So I believe wholeheartedly that miracles are there, and they're around us at all time. I mean, even in our situation with my wife and I, it's been, she went through a major operation last year, and we didn't know if she was coming out on the other side.
Right.
Now she's in the other room, keeping tabs on me and bothering me every day, and I love it. I love every second of it.
Right. Has that changed your perspective on things?
It has, because again, it's this live life kind of every day and make something out of it.
Right.
Okay? Now I want to pivot real quick and ask a fun question to you.
Oh yay!
On your bonus days, do you ever look back and say bonus day 2258 and go, it's not as fun as 1472?
No, brother. No.
Oh, good.
No, absolutely not. Every day I get, it's better than yesterday.
Okay, good.
I love it. Every day I get to wake up and feel good. Look, waking up and feeling good, that's bonus day enough for me, because people don't realize how good is until you don't have it anymore.
Perfect. So before we take any questions here, I got some questions written down here. I want to revisit something that we talked about in our pre-show conversation. We talked a little bit about it last week too. And that was, like I mentioned, the top of the show sequels are better than the original sometimes. Star Trek II.
Absolutely.
Wrath of Khan.
Preach it, brother.
My favorite movie of all time, probably.
I don't believe in a no-win scenario. Absolutely.
You once told me that some of the lines from the movie mirrored emotional gravity in your life. Don't believe in the no-win scenario. That movie has sacrifice. It has redemption. It has... Well, if you haven't seen the movie and you haven't seen the third one, there's resurrection.
Right.
There's loss. There's everything in it. That's why it's a great movie. Anyway, there's a line that Kirk says, how we deal with death is at least as important as how we deal with life.
Absolutely.
He says it's at the end, I think,
when he's experienced loss.
Yes.
Yep.
And he's getting ready to shoot Spock out of the tube.
Right.
When you face life on the edge, how does that hit?
Well, interesting you bring up Wrath of Khan, because that's a life lesson there. Khan he got back, all right? He got his bonus days back when he got off that planet, and he focused on vengeance.
Right.
And we went through, there were a lot of things we could be upset and hold grudges over that we went through. And to recognize what grace really means, people talk about grace, but grace that doesn't cost you something doesn't mean anything. All right, so forgiving people that hurt us along the way. And there are a number of doctors that hurt us bad. Mm-hmm. And I've been in the position where I could have destroyed one of them's career, and I decided this isn't helping anybody. It's not helping me to think about it, to forgive them and to let it go. So I think let go of the bad things that have happened in the past, because it's holding you back from enjoying what you have now.
Perfect. It's a great movie to watch, everybody. You can watch it and comment on the channel and let us know what you think about it. Kent and I will come back and we'll do a movie talk.
Oh, I'd love that.
Yeah, we'll have to. You know what we have to do? It'd be fun. I think maybe we'll do like a watch and comment.
Yeah,
on the movie.
Was it Mystery Science Theater?
Absolutely.
3000?
Absolutely.
We could do a spiritual conversation on what's really going on.
That's right. I love that. So, gonna just about wrapping up our time here. Wow, another hour so fast.
Yeah.
Another lot of questions I didn't get to, but now is the time for the Q&A. This is where we hear directly from you, our listeners. We got some people in the chat here on YouTube over at the Prosperity Lounge. We also have some questions that came in last time and as well as this time. some of these we kind of talked about a little bit, but this is George from Charleston, South Carolina. Said, what advice do you have for someone who hasn't seen their breakthrough yet and is starting to lose hope?
Dude, don't quit. Hold on. We focused on living every day, just making it through the day. My only goal for 6,821 days was to make it to tomorrow. Hang in there, brother. Tomorrow will come.
Okay, and I did not realize this until you asked this question, but one of the things that I told Kent in the midst of all that is I said, baby, you've got to do the things that just make you feel a little bit better. You're not going to get out of pain, but what will make you feel better? How about getting dressed and having a shower? What about eating a decent breakfast? How about thinking of one thing in that couple of hours and getting one thing done? And well, now I'm going to tear up, but I didn't realize that maybe that was the start of my mission statement of saying be the 1 degree of difference. And I would say, baby, do what makes you feel 5% better, 2% better. Maybe you can get 15% better today. Just focus on those little things.
I love that.
I'll be praying for you, brother. I've been there. I've done that. I'm sorry you're going through that, but hang in there, man. Hope is coming.
Definitely, George. All right. Question for Jennifer, bonus question here. What advice would you give to a spouse or partner caring for someone in chronic pain?
I think you have to decide that you're in it to win it and to walk through it with them. It is hard, and I think you need to, take care of them, but don't forget yourself. You still got to do those things that you enjoy, that feed your soul. Find spiritual people that feed you and lift you up, and definitely don't give up.
I love that. I got a question in the chat from Brad. My buddy Brad here is actually Brad Fleming from Home Smiles Knoxville, sponsor of today's show. He's got a question for you guys. Is there a fine line between letting things go and holding someone accountable, in your opinion?
That's a tough question for me because I will generally, you can walk all over me, all right. You don't walk on my family, that's a different story. Now, if someone has wronged you, we have a legal system for a reason. And I had a hard time suing the person that T-boned me. And my attorney was a believer, and he said, look, the Lord has allowed us to be where we have a system set up like this. So if you need recourse, that is, you do what you have to do, all right? I'm not in a position to tell you that there should be yes, I will forgive you, but if you've done something to break the law, you need to pay the consequences for that.
Yeah, he commented here, I certainly believe in forgiveness, but I also wouldn't want the same mistakes being made on others by someone in a professional position.
Well, exactly, yeah. I mean, you can forgive someone, but that doesn't mean you have to put up with it going forward. I mean,
some people I can forgive you, but I'm not going to forget.
Well,
that's that Italian in me. I don't know.
Right. But I mean, look, we have earthly consequences for our actions. If I go drink and go drive and hurt someone, I hope their family will forgive me for doing something stupid. But I absolutely should face the consequences legally for doing that. So yeah, I mean, we reap what we sow here, and that's just part of life.
I love it. Well, thank you all for joining me again today.
Thank you, Joey.
Great, fantastic conversation. It was great to dig in a little bit deeper and to learn more about the other side. And thank you, Jennifer, for sharing your perspective on things. And it's hard. Sometimes it's hard. We have the person who's going through it we want to know more about, but then there's the caretaker on the other side that sometimes we forget about a little bit. And you suffer just as much as he did. And you guys are fantastic. I love you both.
Well, thanks, man. It's been an honor to get to talk to you.
Kent, Jennifer, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Thank you for not just surviving your story, but sharing it, and for reminding us that healing is only the beginning. Whether you're on day 1 or bonus day 2,258, you matter. Your pain has purpose, and your next chapter might be your best. To connect with Ken, visit iknowpain.com or kentmorrell.com. And if this episode moved you, share it with someone who needs to believe again. And of course, if you're looking for support, coaching, or community, come join us inside the Prosperity Lounge at theprosperitylounge.com. Until next time, stay faithful, stay fearless, and remember, freedom lives where faith and action meet. The lounge is always open, and so is your next breakthrough. This is the Prosperity Lounge.
Pull up a chair, the journey's begun. This is where momentum meets the sun. The prosperity